It's time for another Dice Tower review with Z Garcia.
Hey everybody, today I'm taking a look at an expansion to one of my favorite games, Jamaica, a game in which you are all pirates racing around the island of Jamaica trying to come back into Port Royal early and with a whole bunch of loot on your ship. Well, this expansion is called Jamaica the Crew, and it's going to add one very interesting and pivotal thing to the game. Crew, characters that you can load onto your ship and are going to give you special powers, new abilities, and ways to overcome your opponents and be the winner. I'm not going to explain in this video how to play Jamaica the base game. Go check out one of our other videos for that if you want to know how Jamaica itself plays. In this one, I'm just going to show you what comes in this box and how it affects the original gameplay. After the overview, we'll come back. I'll tell you what I thought of this one, and if it makes one of my favorite games of all time, as I've said, even better. Is such a thing possible? Let's find out. So here's what you get with the expansion. You get mainly the box here with a few tiles representing different characters. You get the rum bottle here, and you get a new set of treasure cards that are going to replace the ones that came in the base game. These are mainly made up of values of treasure. Pretty much there is no special effects in here anymore. So you have some bad ones. You are going to have several good ones, including this amazing diamond, the best treasure in the whole game at plus 12. But when you gain this one, you have to display it face up, so you better believe that people are going to be coming after you to take that diamond away from you. So you're going to shuffle these up, and you're going to put them on the board right there where the treasures go, all right? And then the rest of the components simply go in the tray here, which is the box as well. You'll shuffle up the tiles, and then you're going to put the rum bottle right there and flip over the three that are adjacent to the bottle. The characters in the game, which is the main new thing that the expansion adds, are treated just like any other resource. When you load them, they are going to go into your holds. They take up an entire hold. If you replace one, you have to replace it with something other than a character, just like all the other resources. They can be stolen, they can be manipulated just like anything else, etc. But they give you some special power, and they might give you some victory points at the end of the game. I'll talk about how you actually acquire these in just 1 second. And that's pretty much it. That's what you get. The game is still effectively played and won the same exact way as before. So, how do you gain these? Well, you're allowed to gain one of them when your ship stops at a port that you have to pay gold for, and you pay the full amount. If you cannot pay the full amount and you pay as much as you are able to and have to move back, that doesn't qualify. You have to be able to pay the whole amount for the port. So if I stop there, I pay my 5 gold, and then I may, if I want, load one of these face-up characters. I'll take it, I'll put it on my ship. That's it. Now, once I take this one and I put it on my ship, anything that is now, that was next to it would become available. And they would be flipped face up, and they are now possibly up for grabs for the other players or for myself. But the bottle must be next to whatever you intend on acquiring, and so the next player that is able to grab one of these could take this one or this one because they are adjacent to the bottle. But if they want one of these two, they have to pay a gold coin first to move the bottle. So let's say they did that and they take this one here. They load it in their own ships. We reveal the ones that are now adjacent to the acquisition zone, and the game continues. And so if I have the bottle right there and I want that character, it'll cost me 2 gold coins, and then I can take this one, and then these will be revealed. Now, as you can see, these are color-coded to a few different colors, and the color informs you as to what kind of character it is and sort of the powers you can expect to see on those characters. The values at the top, there are 2 values on every single character. The top value is how many points you are going to get if that character wins the race, meaning you win the race, you get to Port Royal first. And the second value is how many points you get anyway, even if you did not win. So it's either the first or the second value, and then, of course, some sort of power. That's it. That's how the game works. So let me show you some of these powers, and so you have an understanding of the things you can expect to see and how they are going to affect the gameplay. Now, I should mention before I show you a few of these in detail, I'm not going to go over all of them, I'll just explain a couple of them. I should mention that some of them are the same powers that you would have already seen on the cards that you would have removed from the special deck. They are simply replicated in these special characters. For example, this one here has the same power as this card. You get to have a hand of 4 cards to pick from during the game. And then this one right here next to it is the same as the cannon from the old treasure deck, where you have +2 to your combat roll. But most of them are brand new, and I'll just show you a couple of them now. Things like this one here that lets you attack when you are adjacent to another ship. Or this character here that lets you take your actions, the morning action during the night, and vice versa if you so choose. This one over here lets you, whenever you would acquire some treasure, you get to draw 3 and pick the one you want. And then we have some more up here. There's even one really interesting one, this one right here, that if you have all 3 of the cursed treasures, all 3 bad cards from this deck of cards here, well, if you have this character and all 3 cursed treasures, you immediately win the game. This one here lets you, when you are the captain, pick the value of one of your 2 dice before you roll the other one. So it allows you to set something. This one lets you ignore backwards movement on your cards if you so choose. And then the king, of course, a very powerful card, but it has no power. It quite simply expects you to win. And if you do win, if you get to Port Royal first, that is, the race part, you get 9 victory points out of this card. But the king's going to be very disappointed if you don't win, and you'll lose 3 points if he is aboard your ship. So there you go. Those are all the different sort of powers you can expect to see in the game. Lots of different fun and interactive abilities. And that's going to do it for me down here. I hope that has given you enough of an overview to understand how this incorporates into the base game. Let's go back up top. Let me give you some final thoughts. So there you go. That is Jamaica the Crew. Let's take a look at some talking points here. I'm going to put the box down, and I'm going to talk about my target audience system, starting with the first T for thematic ties. I think the theme in this one is fantastic. I think they knocked it out of the park. They could have done this a few different ways. And by that I mean expanded Jamaica, right? But Crew is such a thematic tie-in. You can now load characters with powers onto your ship. They take up space on your ship. If they stop being useful, you can throw them overboard and replace them with something else. They help you win. They help you be tricky. Some of them have military powers. Some of them are merchants and are going to help you manage what you load and unload from your ship. It's fantastic. So theme here, 2 thumbs up on that. The aesthetics are also very, very excellent. The artwork matches the original game quite well. The package is well done. You do need to use the box to play, which is sort of I don't know if it's a positive or a negative. I like that the box is used. I like that it's part of the game. But that means you cannot just fold the expansion right into the original box. So, you can take that one or leave it. It depends how you feel about expansion boxes. I don't mind very much, especially when it's so beautiful. But be aware that's how it's going to play out. But the aesthetics are on point. Very well done. Replayability, I think it's quite high. You are not going to get that many characters each game. Now, among all the players, you might possibly recruit most of the characters, but you yourself are not going to have that many. And you'll see players around the table that grab 1 or 2 and forget about the rest of them. You'll see players that get a whole ton of them, 3, 4. Now be aware, 4 characters on your ship means you have 1 deck to play with, to have gold or cannons in, possibly food, the things you need to progress in the race. Now, are the characters that you have going to alleviate some of those issues? Yeah, possibly, but it's very clever and interesting the way it forces you to give up room for rewards, as in powers and possibly victory points at the end of the game. The game length, is not really affected by this expansion, so I'm very happy with that. The game does not feel longer. It is not. It does not bog anything down. I need to flip over a couple of cards and explain the powers on them, and that's it. Very straightforward. In fact, I don't even need to explain all of them at first because they won't be face up at first, and I also like that. It's really nice to be able to get playing faster with non-gamers especially, because you don't have to bog down the conversation with, let me explain all of these people's powers. The ease of play, which I just talked about a little bit, is quite nice. Fiddliness is not a problem. Everything makes sense. The design choices that they made for the expansion are on point. The idea of having to move the rum bottle, you're giving up points to do that. You are giving up coins. Now, they might not have been there anyway because of how Jamaica plays out. Sometimes you lose all your coins or you have to throw them overboard. But I also like that from a mechanical point of view. That's really clever. The fact that you need to pay to get closer to a different character you might want to load. And I like that your opportunity to load the characters is when you pay a port in money, one of the money spots, in full. It makes those places a little less painful because those were rough. You usually would avoid that spot because paying 5 coins is always worse than paying 3 or 4 food, you know. But now you might have a reason to go there, and I like that very much. And then lastly, tactics and strategy and luck. I like that the characters are going to be, once they are revealed, available to everybody. And so there are tactics there and certainly tons of combos when it comes to the different characters. If you go militaristic, there's a few different combinations that are so powerful and important, you know. You have, for instance, there's a character that if you are the attacker, you win outright. And there's a character that lets you attack from one space away. Those two together, that's a killer combination, and you better avoid that scourge on the seas, you know. So that's the sort of thing I'm talking about, and I think the tactical implications are really fun and very thematic. So, if it sounds like I'm pretty psyched for this one, I am. I think Jamaica, the Crew, is a really neat expansion to the game. That's not to say it is perfect, or at least it sort of, I was a little apprehensive at first. When I first got the expansion, I realized that they would replace the entire deck on the board with a new deck, and it made me feel like, oh man, I liked the special cards in that deck, you know. But they've replaced them in here with some characters, so that's fine. I think it ultimately makes the game a little cleaner. It makes more sense that if you dig for treasure, you find treasure, not a cannon. You know what I mean? So it's cleaner now from a teaching point of view. I actually think playing with the expansion with someone new, it makes more thematic sense. It might actually be easier to explain to them what's going on. The idea of having people on a pirate ship that do piratey stuff just works. And so I like it very much. So overall, this is really a neat expansion. It's not going to change how the game plays. It's not going to affect a whole lot. I did have one of my players say that they thought the fact that the pirates had bonuses for coming in first made coming in first even more rewarding, right? If I have a couple of characters on my ship and they come in and I come in first, I've now got not just 15 points for being the one to arrive at Port Royal, but even more points from those characters. That's true, but I got a couple of things to say about that. A, it is a race game, and I know gold is important to try to win that race, but coming in first should be important. And secondly, the way you load these characters is by stopping somewhere where you have to pay a bunch of gold. And so getting some of that quote-unquote gold back is not so bad. Usually you want to avoid the spots that you pay gold for. And with this expansion, well, you get some of that gold right back into your hold, assuming you keep that character the entire race. So I'm okay with it. It feels good having all of these new characters to manage in the game. And so for me, this is an excellent expansion. This one gets a seal of excellence. And if you are a fan of Jamaica like me, I think you're really going to enjoy it. That has been Jamaica, the Crew.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.